the optics, as they call it, the optics of the situation, when you project this kind of cult, cult paramilitary, along with criminal cases like Lisa McPherson's death, which should have been charged as a negligent homicide, David Miscavige personally, uh, the image they project is just weird. It's just strange. It's not. When you look at the IES events, they look like inside of flying saucers. So first of all, they've never gotten the optics right. Even if when they hired expensive ad agencies, even when you look at Scientology TV, you can get the production values are very good, but content the content is really weird and bizarre. That is, it's not like Apple or Nike or the big companies that really know how to give consumers what they want. And there's a great story on the internet about it's a piece of video uh, where basically Steve Jobs said, "I'm going to control music by putting it in a little box, and you can download and everything." And that he was so far ahead of things. But anyway, why is it so strange? First of all, we begin with the paramilitary organization SEORG with a billion-year contract. That's strange because that you have to one believe in reincarnation, two believe that someone going through the hell of SEORG is going to come back for a billion years of it. It's not real. It is horrible. Now, the other thing, this is a little bit of my own problem. Sometimes when you use PowerPoint, it gets in the way. But basically, L. Ron Hubbard claimed he was not from this planet. And I hope my slides aren't screwed up. But this can happen when I do a PowerPoint. It's clean on PowerPoint, so I may switch to my other. Let me just see, because I don't want I don't want all that work to go to waste. I work so hard for my audience. And let's just see if I can get this. I'm going to go up and switch to my other. Oh, what's this coming in? We have something from the Department of Justice coming in on my live feed. Hold on. Let me see if I want to. I get notices from DOJ website. And okay, so I'm going to take this off screen, remove, and I'm going to screen share. But okay, so L. Ron Hubbard basically, we begin. He claimed that he's not from this planet. And we're going to share this video. And I've got it queued up. So let me get the sound up for you. If you can't hear it, let me know. I'm going to crank up the volume so we can hear L. Ron Hubbard in his own words saying he's not from this planet. And again, this is like, why is it so strange? Well, this is going to explain why. And we are on, and let's just hear Ron in his own words. And put one if you can hear it. If not, I'll reset it. Okay, I'm going to stop there. We're going to go back. L. Ron Hubbard says he's not from this planet. So that's part of why people think Scientology is strange. But I wanted to make you aware of this. It's out there on YouTube. So let's hear it again real quick. Okay, so when you say that you're not from this planet and you're serious, you didn't hear it? Oh, can't hear the audio. Okay, if you can't hear the audio, let me. I had previewed it. You can just go L. Ron Hubbard. I'm not from this planet, but basically L. Ron. If you can't hear the video, some people couldn't hear your mic. Okay, well, go here. You can listen to it, and I'll post it on my blog. I did test it out, but the best laid plans of mice and wogs. But L. Ron Hubbard said he's not from this planet. And when you do that, when you start out with that you're an extraterrestrial, and he did that in I think in 1952. So you have L. Ron Hubbard saying that he's not from this planet. And Hubbard does this for a lot of reasons. So to the general public, he's strange, but to his followers, him not being from this planet, once you accept that he comes from another planet, then you will accept everything else he says. So that's what Hubbard started out with. I'm not from this planet. And again, the video's on YouTube. It's easy to find. Just type in L. Ron Hubbard, not from this other planet. And I want to distribute that. I think that'd be interesting to use. Now, Heaven's Gate cult leader, T. Ando, this is Marshall Herf Applewhite. He claimed to also be from a higher level. So he claimed that he came here with Doe, who died, from another planet, and he was going to teach you higher wisdom. So L. Ron Hubbard started out saying that he was an extraterrestrial. That is, he was not from this planet. He said he had existed forever, and in his beneficence, he had assumed a human form. Okay, so the idea of an all-powerful eternal savior from a higher dimension incarnating in a human body resonated with ancient salvific themes and modern cultic movements. Because what we see in modern cults, as well as ancient, is you have people from a higher dimension who are so beneficent they incarnate in human form. And that's a very common cultic claim among leaders, especially in Eastern metaphysical traditions, that they are the avatar, and that they are a higher level being from a higher dimension. And that automatically shifts the power balance to where they're superior and you're inferior, and you must learn from them and set at their feet because they're a window to the transcendental. Um, Hi, Carl. Glad to see you here. Yeah, you're not getting the sound from the tape or from my mic. Uh, yeah, you guys put one. You can hear me. I mean, you couldn't hear the Ron video, uh, but put one. I'm sure you guys hear me. I'm checked out there. I've got 1-1 on that. But yeah, the Hubbard video you couldn't hear. I'm fully checked out. Everything on my settings shows that I'm fine. Yeah, my mic's fine, but the Hubbard video wasn't. Yeah. Well, Carl, glad to see you here. And Carl's a good friend of Karen and I. And just type in L. Ron Hubbard, Not of This World on YouTube. So I want to talk about Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard. I'm going to put in LRH just for convenience because I don't want to spell out his name. And a lot of why Scientology appears strange is due to the power dynamics Hubbard built in, where he had all the power and Scientologists have none of the power. And we saw that in Heaven's Gate, and look how that ended. They decided to go to the next level, and rather than ending their lives naturally, they used phenobarbital and vodka to go to the next level. And I have to tell you, anytime you have to unalive yourself to go to the next level, then that's not transcendental. That's not salvationary. That's just unaliving yourself by an overdose, which is a horrible way to go. That ended. So, but that idea that Hubbard, in the video, Hubbard said, "I'm not from this planet. I've come here to help you." So he becomes he becomes a bigger person than you. So here's the advantages, and this is again why Scientology looks so strange. So they have an extraterrestrial leader, Hubbard, who's source. So when he made himself a super being from that means he came from a highly advanced planet. That means, because Hubbard said that time travel, astral projection, which he called exteriorization, faster than light travel, that's FTL, telepathy, and all of the powers existed. That's easy for a lot of people to accept. And Hubbard one-upped them because it's easy when you read science fiction, we watch Star Trek, Star Wars, to accept the fact that we're not the only civilization out there. Just numerically, the Drake constant, which is a little bit outdated, but the Drake constant and the discovery of exoplanets. So just the mathematics are that there's other beings out there in the universe and planets. I don't have any problem with that. But the idea of one of them coming here to start an organization like Scientology would mean that there's cults on other planets that are equally weird, and they were probably kicked out of their planet. Nevertheless, so LRH Hubbard made himself an extraterrestrial savior figure. And the reason he made himself a savior figure so that his words could not be questioned, his acts couldn't be questioned. So again, Scientology looks strange because of the power dynamics Hubbard employed within his mythos, his tech, as he called it, to shift the power all to himself and away from you. And he did some other stuff. So when you ask people, if you were to do a survey, with what is Scientology identified, most people would say aliens, extraterrestrials, or body thetans. So just over time, since Scientology started in 1950, OT's levels were released in 67. It's mainly identified, and South Park did a good job. They did a really good job of capturing it in a parody. And I'm sorry, Form 13909, your comments, they came at me in the wrong direction. So Scientology became, by its own design and creation, identified as a flying saucer cult because Xenu has all the DC-8 space planes. There are body thetans. There's telepathy. There's faster than light travel claims that they're superhuman. So that's why it looks strange. It's not what we say. It's what they say and what they do. And again, I go back to the strangest thing, when you come out with a paramilitary cult organization, that looks menacing, sinister, dangerous. And its members have been engaged in violations of public policy, criminal activity, things David Miscavige, for which he has not been arrested, the things he covers up. I mean, that's this picture alone. Hubbard's positioning of himself. Hubbard was big on marketing, but look at how he positioned himself as this being who came into a human form to help us. Now, as an extraterrestrial, I'm calling Hubbard that, and I think that we should begin a conversation where Hubbard the extraterrestrial, because that's how he positioned himself, not from this planet. And a lot of the public doesn't know it, and I think is an important data point. So here's how Hubbard set it up. Because he was extraterrestrial, and that just simply means he came from another planet here to help, he claimed to know about the local galactic situation and was aware of all the traps, cosmic traps, implanting stations on Mars, tractor beams, implants, and the enslavers' use of pain drugs and hypnosis. PDH, if you want to Google that in Scientology, Hubbard said that when the enslavers, the psychs, want to trap you, they use pain drugs and hypnosis. And that came out when he was malingering in Oakland Naval Hospital, and they were trying to treat PTSD, severe from World War II combat soldiers. They were experimenting with this large population of people who had returned from the war who were heavily traumatized by the atrocities of the war. Some of the people who had seen, who had liberated the camps in Germany, some of the people who had fought in the Pacific campaigns. I mean, they were just terribly. So they were experimenting with that, and Hubbard kind of picked that up and figured it would be a way to trap people. Hubbard himself wrote a 1949 paper where he mentioned the use of barbiturates in his own clinical trials at a facility for older people, geriatric research. There is a 1949 paper where Hubbard was actually not a doctor, but he was trying to treat people with hypnosis and barbiturates. And that is there on my blog as well. So, this is this comment. Wacky metaphysics, transcendent aliens are obsessed with taxation. That's unique to Adam. That's a good observation. In traditional metaphysics, for example, Adam makes a good point. Hubbard said that Xenu drew people in for tax. tax audits. And that's Hubbard trying to contextualize his space opera into everyday life, something with which his followers everyone can identify with paying taxes. Jesus himself, when he was asked in the gospel, should we pay taxes? He said, look at that coin. It's a Roman coin. He said, whose image and superscription is upon that coin? And they said, Caesar's. So Jesus told his followers, render unto Caesar's that which is Caesar's, and unto God that which is God. Of course, American religionists would later circumvent Jesus and get tax exemption. So tax exemption contradicts the gospel fundamentally, because Jesus said, render unto Caesar's, pay your taxes. But American evangelicals and everyone, all religions in America don't want to pay taxes, including LDS, our friends, the Mormons, which is why. Yeah, but that's a good point. Hubbard did contextualize it in with taxation because he didn't like to pay the income tax. Hubbard said that the income tax was horrible. He didn't want to pay taxes. But that's a good observation. So getting back to where we were at, so there's always this cosmic thing, and what LRH does is he embodies all of evil on the world into psychiatry. So the enemies become the psychs. We know, thanks to Marty Rathbun, a secret advice Marty shared when he was on our side, that L. Ron Hubbard wrote that the psychs came from a planet called Farsec. So he actually localized a place from which and so this, again, the fact that L. Ron Hubbard read a secret advice saying that the psychs came from the planet Farsec, this shifts the power balance where he's an ancient extraterrestrial savant who knows the actual planet from which the psychs came to Earth. And that's would be considered esoteric within Scientology, because that's not for what's called BPI, broad public issue. That's a secret advice shared to us by a man who at one time defected. So look at what Hubbard's telling his inner circle. And there's always a cult within a cult. Hubbard created the Guardian's office and the upper echelon of the Sea Org, the CMO, the Commodore's Messenger Org. So he had this inner cult within a cult, the Palace Guard, if you will. But Hubbard was telling them all this secret stuff like, I have existed forever, and I know where the psychs came from. It's a planet called Farsec. And I want to get to why you should not laugh at this, but take it seriously, because it's so dangerous, because it conditions a breed of people who are very hostile to the human race because of the design. So as an extraterrestrial, Hubbard was able to therefore draw the cosmic battle lines between Scientology and psychiatry. And this he positioned as a part of an ongoing, 4 quadrillion-year-old war that's just happened to now be localized on Earth. So he drew the cosmic battle lines. He created Scientologists to be warriors. And so they believe that they're whole track warriors. They've been around forever and engaged in this war. That's part of the reason they seem strange. This is why they don't talk about their religion, that they're cosmic warriors engaged in a race of super beings who use psych drugs on this planet, and they come from Farsec. Even most OTs don't know that. So Hubbard created a strange thing, and it's really Gnostic in nature, as I get to. So the secret technique LRH used was to create a power imbalance, whereby he, as the cosmic extraterrestrial savior, had all the power and his followers had none. And this is the power of LRH appointing himself as source. That can't be underestimated. So L. Ron Hubbard identifies the enemy. They're the psychs and psychiatrists. They're the British bankers. They're basically anyone L. Ron Hubbard doesn't like, including the IRS. So that's the enemy. We're fighting a great cosmic battle. I'm the chosen one. I'm source. Because he said in Keeping Scientology Working, we will not discuss why I was chosen to rise above the bank, meaning the reactive mind. Because people said, Ron, if there's a reactive mind, how did you come to rise above the reactive mind? Ron deflected that by saying, we will not discuss how it was that I came to rise above the rectum mind. But he took all the credit because he later on, when he released the OT levels, he said he was the first one to find his way out of the 75 million year old trap. So, yeah, so that's part of what he's doing. He's framing a cosmic drama in which he's the savior, the leader, the warlord, and he's going to create an elite super race of beings to bring this to a sort of Scientology themed Armageddon where they will destroy psychiatry on planet Earth and it will be replaced because Hubbard said Scientology should have a monopoly on mental health. He said that in the 1950s. And what's interesting, Tony Ortega just did a good article on how they're trying to, by use of lawsuits, Scientology's Citizen Commission for Human Rights are trying to bankrupt the two companies that build machines that are used in ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, which is still in use and is nothing like it was in the 50s. And it's strange, the e-meter puts, 50 milliamps through your body over a period of an hour, 2 hours. So Scientology is doing the same thing. It's putting electrical current through the body. It's just not doing it at the same levels as an ECT would. ECT there's time and intensity. An ECT machine is a spike, short time duration, seconds or less. But it's a big, I think I have the specs. I'm trying to contact the companies, but Scientology is putting electrical current through the body, and I want to do an article on that. I'm looking at the specs for an ECT machine versus a meter. I have the patent, and it does put 50 MA through the body, and it's just strange. It's like one could argue that it's a micro ECT, much lower level. And Xenu was from Cultus. T, what do we have a doctor of Scientology in the house? I know the planet Cultus from Hubbard's writings, but I don't know that Xenu was from Cultus. Hubbard's work says there was a planetary confederation of 76 planets 75 million years ago, but I don't think he identifies Cultus specifically. But if we have a doctor of Scientology in the house, they could answer T's question. That's a good question. What planet was Xenu from? I don't know that Hubbard actually identifies a planet, but I know the Cultus is within the Hubbard cosmology of planets. There's like a lot of planets. We should do the Hubbard universe sometime. Okay, so he's source, and he's come out of the space-time continuum, incarnated in a human body to help lead humans out of the trap. And there's also the dehumanization where we're Homo sapiens, we're humanoids, hypnotized zombies. That's part of us. Add some pinks and grays, Adam. Let's go jump back in. Now, in this next slide, what part of Scientology's problem might seem strange is their founder is so outdated. I mean, nobody wears cravats. And look at those big, huge wing collars on his shirt. He's horribly outdated. Even in the 1950s, people didn't wear cravats. Men did not wear cravats. So Hubbard's like from a bygone era, like 1920s, where for a while, fashion changes, but he seemed to assume that the cravat was a sign of wealth. I guess in England, him being an Anglophile. So the images of their founder, these are just outdated. Jesus, when you put him in a robe, he fits into time and place, ordinary clothing. And he fits in with, Hubbard stood out like a sore thumb wearing cravats and then a naval uniform. So you get this guy who's wearing a naval uniform on the Apollo. So he's in this cultic paramilitary. And then when he's lecturing, he has a cravat. And this is like Hubbard's beauty shot. You can see how they backlighted it to him glistening, and they've of course photoshopped this. You only have so much to work. Look, we all get old. There's nothing in that, but with Hubbard, you only had so much to work with, you know. so so the optics there is like, so this guy that wore a cravat who was from another planet and talked about BTs and Xenu, that's your leader of your religion. That's okay. Yeah. And again, Adam, his Anglophilia made him look and sound absurd. Yes, he would use like words like a process. Yeah, wearing only cowboy clothes. Yeah, yeah. And that picture of L. Ron Hubbard, when he later would do films out at the ranch, whatever it's called, Rifle, the gold base before the studio was built. Yeah, he wore Western clothing, and there's so that's part of it. It's like their founder is outdated, and so he just looks really obsolete. So Scientology is strange fundamentally because L. Ron Hubbard was strange, and Scientology embodies his warped psychopathology. These are notes. These are just my opinion, and people can make other lists, but these are the qualities that stand out to me. Is Hubbard was fundamentally paranoid. In fact, you could call him a paranoid lunatic. He had a profound need for revenge, to destroy anyone and anything that did disagree with him or got in his way or threatened him, and that included Mary Sue Hubbard, his third wife. He allowed her to go to prison for his crimes in Snow White, a program he wrote in 1971 in Queens, New York, when he was hiding out. He needed to be an expert on everything. You could talk about anything or everything, and I've talked to a lot of people who knew Hubbard personally and spent a lot of time with them, particularly Bill Franks. My wife Karen knew him. Janice Grady, of course. Janice Gilliam Grady. Her books are phenomenal. If you want to get close up, she was with Hubbard from, what was it, 12 years old. I mean, so I've interviewed people extensively in Hubbard, and he liked to be an expert on everything. So Tony just published a piece on Kodak, and I'd covered that years ago. Hubbard wrote on color chemistry to Kodak like he was an expert on the color chemistry of matching film emulsion to light, and he didn't, like, it's just, he would read something, he was like a parrot. And that's why his early works, one of his early Dianetics books, he dedicated to Will and Ariel Durant, who'd written like these world histories that they didn't withstand the test of time. So Hubbard would quote or drop names like Freud, Jung, Korbitsky. He would just drop names, and he would read something and parrot it. So he had to be an expert on everything. One-upsmanship was the ultimate thing. I remember one of the mission holders. Who was it? Oh, it was the late Alan Walter. Said that I used to talk to Alan quite a bit, and Alan was generous. He talked to a lot of people in the community, former Scientologists. He really wanted to help, and he talked to me, and we would compare notes. He was interested in some of my take on Eastern metaphysics, and I was interested in, but he said that Ray Kemp was the mission holder for Orange County, I believe, and don't hold me to that, but I think Ray Kemp had the Orange County mission back then. And so Alan Walter, who was a big mission holder, was on the ship, the Apollo, and Ray Kemp came aboard with a lot of great ideas to improve the mission holder and grow Scientology. And so he spent some time on the ship, and as Hubbard showed him off the ship, the gangplank, and bid him, farewell. And then he ordered him destroyed, because Alan said he committed the ultimate crime of making himself look smarter than Hubbard, smarter and more capable than Hubbard. So Hubbard ordered Ray Kemp destroyed. But that's what Alan Walter told me. And the ultimate crime was thinking you were smarter or better than Hubbard. And if you had something, I think the people around Hubbard, because if you read a Simon Bolivar policy, being around power puts you in danger. That's why I think that David Miscavige knew how to read Hubbard and play to him, completely be a sycophant and do any vicious evil thing Hubbard wanted, because Hubbard said, if you're going to serve a power, you give him a gift like the fire of the enemy camp ablaze. And if there's a body of if there's a pile of bodies by the door, you don't tell him it's his fault. And that's the pink legs policy. So Hubbard's paranoia, need for revenge, and then his extraordinary greed. I mean, it was extraordinary. He monetized every part of Scientology is transactional. Everything costs money, or it costs time, or it costs your children, it costs your soul. I mean, as I always say, the phenomena of Scientology is nothing left of a person. Hubbard's greed is extraordinary, and he was a terrorist, classical terrorist. And that means he didn't care. He was willing to destroy children. And we've gotten their direct testimony, the people who grew up under that system. He was willing to destroy adults, teenagers, families. He was willing to destroy anybody. And that means put them to work, crush them so that they're nobody. They're just units of production that won't backflash. He wanted slaves, and he said that in his 1945 affirmations, all men will be my slaves. And so the slave master doesn't care what happens to the slaves. They're expendable. They're coins. They're just units. So in a classical terrorist way, and I would identify him as a religious terrorist, and I do that unapologetically, and I can back that with evidence and facts. Hubbard was willing to engage in blackmail. In fact, his policies, he said, when you move off a point of power in some Boulevard policy, you have blackmail. You have money in the bank, pay your debts, have blackmail. Blackmail, that is extortion, coercion. That's written into Hubbard policy, and I could do an entire hour on blackmail and Scientology and how it works, from calling PC folder content to threatening people with disconnection, and it goes on and on and on. So blackmail, an extraterrestrial who's supposed to be helping man is actually just using common human criminality like blackmail, wiretapping. He engaged in burglary, theft, espionage. That's Operation Snow White. That's not an ET extraterrestrial savior. That's just an everyday cultic leader who's a criminal and who engages others to be criminals. But he does this, he persuades others to engage with him, and we're going to go on in that. Hubbard was also a coward in the extreme. He would not put himself in the path of danger when he could throw others under the bus, his wife, other people. And so he lived in hiding from 1971. He left their free winds, and that what I was ranting about at the beginning. And I do apologize, Form 13909. But I just gotten a lot of really crappy emails about why don't I platform this whole thing about Hubbard being a CIA agent. I said, send me the evidence and be willing to come on my show and talk. You can't hide in the shadows. Come on a live stream with me, present the evidence. Otherwise, I'm not going to make. Somebody wanted me to post a long series of things on my blog, and I said, no, come on, do a live stream, give your name, rank, serial number, and the evidence. You've had FOIA since 1968, Freedom of Information Act. You don't have one bit of evidence. I'm willing to give you the time if you have something, but you have to come on under your own name. You don't get to be Fabian, and you take all the risks. So do it, or just, I'm not going to bother. That is, I'm not going to present your case for you. So Hubbard, when he left the ship, the Apollo in 71, and lived in Queens, New York for a year, and then he left, and he traveled around for a while in an RV, and Janice Grady documents this quite well. He wanted to avoid the spectacle of lawsuits, criminal indictment, and a perp walk. Could you imagine Hubbard being perp walked, in cuffs in front of the media? They would have perp walked him if the IRS Criminal Investigation Division was after him, and he would have been sent to prison. So he was a coward. He talked about getting in fights, but he was never in a fight. He avoided fights. I think the only person, according to John Atack, my friend John Atack, he hit Otto Roos on the ship, where Otto Roos was a class 12 who did Hubbard's folder, did a folder review, and Hubbard said, "Well, I'm glad someone's willing to help me." Like it was the poor me syndrome. I'm glad Otto was willing to help me. No one's ever willing to help me. I have to catch all the dropped balls and flubs. I am the flub catcher. I'm the founder of Lost Tech. I have so much to do, but now somebody's helping me. So anyway, Otto went through Hubbard's folders and found a load of rock slams. And when he presented this to L. Ron Hubbard and Mary Sue, apparently Hubbard went nuclear. And Mary Sue screamed that it wasn't possible that the great founder of Scientology would have a rock slam. And that, for the uninitiated, let me get my my meter. Okay, so I have a meter, and a rock slam is when the needle on the meter does a wild motion. It's indicating you're lying. You're a list one rock slammer, and it means you have hidden evil purposes. Oh, hi, Warrior Queen. Glad to see you here. By the way, this e-meter, some fellow researcher wanted to see what it looks like. So I had a researcher, writer, journalist come by and said, "What does one look like?" And this is a quantum, and that's what it looks like. It has a battery and parts, and there's the actual meter. That's actually a pretty expensive meter. It's gasketed with silicon, but it is you can see the schematic in the patent. But that's the quantum. They use a newer one that has a clock chip and some other interpolation built in. There you go. Now you know what one's. So if someone wanted to see what one looks like, so I said, yeah, let's go see what one looks like. Because it's always fun to take stuff apart, like their FCC frequencies and licenses. So, so Hubbard, the ET Savior, is actually much about, for example, using the meter to sec check people. He created sec checks. That's a function of his paranoia. Is he wanted to have all the blackmail on you, and part of the Joburg sec check is, have you had any crimes for which you haven't been convicted? Is there anything you haven't told me about? Have you done anything for which you don't want us to know? So the fundamental thing, part of why Scientology is so strange, is it's a power imbalance. The minute you walk in, as I've said many times, you sign the 4 contracts, which strip you of all your legal and civil rights, your right to sue, that forces you into arbitration. So part of it is strange because there's no other religion, and I don't consider Scientology a religion, to answer a question I just got in an email, and I'll explain. I'm explaining why it's a cult. And this presentation is part of it, is the fundamental power imbalance. They don't have in classical church governance. You usually have elders or board of directors. You have checks and balances, and you always will have someone whose word has the final word, but there's still going to be checks and balances, but not so in Scientology. So yeah, it's kind of a outdated look, and but here's the thing. We go into the next slide. Now, Hubbard's shifting the power balance. Again, I'm going to focus on this line. So what he's done, he's the extraterrestrial who's come to save us. He draws the cosmic battle lines as an ancient one between Scientology and psychiatry. And so he defines this battle as a continuing cosmic battle between good and evil. This is Hubbard moving into Gnosticism, the ancient battle between good and evil. So he can classically be defined within Gnosticism. Scientology can be defined within Gnosticism. There's some places where maybe it has some departures slightly, but generally it's Gnostic. So in Hubbard's usage, though, reincarnation was a tool to minimize human life itself. It's very different than the Hindu view of reincarnation and karma. And you're trying to have good karma this lifetime to live a better life next time, and to purify yourself so that you ultimately break the cycle of birth and death through good karma, through good acts, and you attain ultimate liberation and you break free of the wheel of birth and death. In Hubbard's usage, reincarnation's a tool he uses to minimize human life itself. There's a big term in Scientology called this lifetime. And I really want to emphasize in Scientology, there's a term called this lifetime, and which means this lifetime is not important because you're a trillion-year-old Thetan, and Jamie Mustard has said it well. You're a child. In other second gens have said you're a child, and you're told that you're a trillion-year-old Thetan, so you're not allowed to be a child. And so Hubbard uses reincarnation not in the way the Hindus do, to purify yourself and be a better person and achieve good karma, to attain liberation from the binding modifications of consciousness, to go into the liberated state of nirvana, transcendental radiant bliss. None of that. It's sort of like, for Hubbard, reincarnation is a way to minimize this lifetime. It's like, oh, look, this is just a lifetime in a series of millions and millions and billions of lifetimes. So you can sacrifice this lifetime. You don't need a nice house. You don't, you need to serve the purpose of Scientology this lifetime. And then maybe you can get to being a doctor or whatever it is you aspire to be, an actor in another lifetime, because you're going to have plenty of other lifetimes. So you might as well dedicate this lifetime. And I've heard that. Should I still say this lifetime? Yeah. And see, that's where it becomes a trap. If you think of reincarnation as like, well, I think I'll just let myself go. I mean, I know a lot of older people who think, well, this lifetime, I'm not going to give up smoking. I'm going to let myself go. And they do. They don't try to improve intellectually. They just it's like they just let themselves go because it's just this lifetime. There'll be another lifetime. They'll have a better body and they'll reincarnate into a better family, even though they don't have the requisite virtue. If you look within the Hindu model, it actually reincarnate lower. And so yeah, the cheapening of this lifetime through reincarnation. So because, and let's get back into why Scientology is strange. So this lifetime is a throwaway lifetime within Scientology. It's an ultimate throwaway lifetime. So your childhood was bad this lifetime. Too bad. Suck it up, Buttercup, because you have a planet to clear. And you don't have any HENR about your childhood, no human emotional reaction about your childhood. Look, it's just happened this lifetime. If you really step up for the Church of Scientology, you'll have a better next lifetime and you'll be born into a rich Scientology family. That's the ultimate Scientology masturbatory fantasy, is that in the next, while this lifetime sucks and you're sharing an apartment with 3 other couples in frigging Sylmar, right next to the 5 freeway, and you can feel the trucks rumble your apartment, and you're smoking, and you have a really crappy old car, if you have a car at all, it's all going to be better because in the next lifetime, you're going to be born into a wealthy Scientology family. Then there's maybe 12 wealthy Scientology families, 20, call it 100 affluent. That's only going to produce so many kids. So, but yeah, all these older Scientologists who are still smoking and letting themselves go, like, they're miserable, but next lifetime it'll be better, I promise. If you're in Christianity, it's only a one lifetime, and Scientologists speak derogatorily of the one lifetimers. But they believe they're going to go to heaven, so why bother doing anything? So I'm going to go to heaven. It's kind of the same resignation, like in some Christian cults. The belief is, well, you're going to go to heaven, you're going to push on to glory, so just suck it up now, whatever is going on, and do your all for the gospel or our church, and so on. So this lifetime thing is kids are throwaway. You didn't have a good childhood, too bad. You pulled it in, take responsibility for it, and put in your ethics, write up your OWs and get into the Sea Org, blah, 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 blah. And we heard the horrendous outcome from that of the second gens actually sharing how bad it was. Yeah, it is. It's the ultimate bait and switch. Transcendence is a means of devaluation. Reincarnation is a means of devaluation. That's exactly what I'm saying. And so Hubbard's usage of reincarnation was a tool to minimize human life itself, to sacrifice this lifetime and become a Scientology warrior. And to become a Scientology warrior is to study and apply Hubbard. It's to join the Sea Org. It's to become a warrior in this great cosmic battle against psychiatry. And so that's very much what it's about. Now, so L. Ron Hubbard employed the ancient spirit matter dualism. And spirit matter, I have a self-published book, What Caused the Big Bang? And this is metaphysics. And basically, I borrow analogically from Einstein. Einstein combined space and time into space-time to show that they were interrelated. And conceptually, I take spirit and matter, the dualism, and I call it spirit matter. I make it one word. As if you think about it, any religion is not possible without the duality of spirit and matter. And I'm not talking about Buddhism where there's consciousness. I'm talking about classic dualistic spirit matter. So there's a division that there's a lower physical universe that's a trap, the fallen sin nature, and then there's the spirit that's attaining liberation from the physical universe. That's spirit and matter. And fundamentally, in especially Judeo-Christian Islam, we are spirits in a body. So spirit matter is very well known. Hubbard relanguaged it in his terminology as Theta-MEST. It's the same damn thing. Spirit matter. He just calls it Theta-MEST. And he acted like it was a revolutionary discovery. And Scientologists who didn't grow up in a religious background acted like Theta-MEST is some big giant revolutionary breakthrough, equal to the radial tire, maybe. It's not. It's just spirit matter. It's right in your Bible. It's right in the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, you can find it everywhere, but that you have to have that model, that duality, and then you just populate it with different deities, different rules, and you really, that's the chassis or the platform upon which all conventional religions are built, or is this dualistic spirit matter system. Hubbard and Scientology are no different, but they call it Theta-MEST, and therefore, instead of being a spirit, as I would be in Christianity, a Western context, or even Hinduism, and I'm leaving Buddhism out of the conversation because I don't want to get attacked by peaceful Buddhists and their ponderous scholasticism. So I got it. Leave me alone, Buddhists. Namaste. Can you do that? I guess that, like it's a way of blowing them off. Hey, namaste, whatever. So what L. Ron Hubbard does with Theta-MEST, or spirit matter, you're a Thetan and you're a cosmic traveler. You're able to leave the body, or hopefully, if you can pay enough money to get to the upper levels, you'll be able to exteriorize. And at night, you can travel to the great spiral galaxies and make your postulates form in real life. And this is just manifestation. It's part of the Course in Miracles. I mean, there's all these themes are the same. But basically, Scientology claims to make a Thetan senior to the MEST universe. So they have power of the physical universe. Another reason Scientologists look strange is they claim they've made ridiculous claims, like they've steered hurricanes away from Clearwater. They even Scientology claimed that put an end to the Cold War and the fall of communism in 1991. Scientologists claim they brought about the fall of the Soviet Union through their spirit power. They claim that. So these are super beings. And now, one thing I have on my blog, this an evergreen post. Hubbard created Scientologists to be a master race called Homo Novus. And basically, he said that in 1957, quote, man had ceased to be Homo sapiens and had to become Homo Scientologicus in order to accomplish any action that was anywhere near efficient in South Africa. And he says of Homo novus that it's a theta animated MEST body possessed of new and desirable attributes, MEST clear, and that they have fantastic capabilities. So he creates a master race, but look at how pernicious that is. When you're suddenly Homo novus, you're a cosmic warrior. You know the secrets of the universe. You will potentially you will become a god. And that's what Kirstie Alley wanted to be. That's what Nancy Cartwright has said. They want to become a god where you'll have power over the physical universe once you master the OT secrets. By the way, most of the parts in this are obsolete and no longer made. And so what happens? They rely on the MEST universe WOGs to make all the Internet of Everything cheap parts for this. So when they discontinue it, Scientology's existing meter is really old and most of the parts aren't made, or that you have to go to legacy suppliers. So it's funny that for being such super beings, they have to rely on off-the-shelf WOG components. It's like, why do you even need a meter? Couldn't you just do it telepathically? You actually need like printed circuit boards, resistors, transistors, capacitors, wires, copper wires, connectors, motherboard, daughter board. To me, it's a crack up. It's a contradiction. If you're so goddamn spiritual, why do you need WOG electrical components, most of which are obsolete? Oh, I love being an old man. I can rant like that. One of my, I mean, I don't like the getting old part, but the ranting is like, I'm old. Oh, he's old. Just ignore him. Shut up, Grandpa. Sorry. So you have these super beings, albeit reliant upon WOG electronics to navigate the celestial realms of where all the implants and engrams and BTs are. This is actually a BT detector on the upper levels. So a body Thetan detector is actually just WOG hardware configured to, I guess, isn't that amazing? You can detect BTs with WOG hardware. Hubbard owes us here in the electronics industry, the WOG electronics industry. And I don't think the WOG electronic, Mark 7 powered by 7 AA batteries of 8 volts of pure theta power. That's right. The email where I said postulates won the Cold War. I thank you. You know, I appreciate it. Like I said, I apologize. It was just like I've been getting a lot of unwanted communications, to use a Scientology term. It's stuff I didn't want to hear, like someone after me. And I said, come on live, out yourself, go public with your story, show your data. So I'm going to continue this. One of my evergreen posts is on my blog. I'm going to share a screen. I'm going to stop that screen for a minute. I'm going to share another screen. This is something that if you haven't read it, and it's been read a lot of times, this is one of the most read posts on my blog. The horrifying real secret of Scientology is genocide. I published this back in 2015, and basically, the real secret is not Xeno or volcanoes. It's that Scientology has a master race called Homo novus. And I lay out the timeline of how Hubbard introduced Homo novus and how they were to handle the master race framework. As Hubbard says, people who were below 2.0 or in the tone scale were to be disposed of quietly and without sorrow. And he says that in Science of Survival, the second book he published right after Dianetics. He said that you either uninterpolate them by auditing or you dispose of them quietly and without sorrow. This is a pretty shocking post. And Poe, if you're on, T, if you really want something with teeth to give to the government, to give to media, Hubbard said everyone 2.0 or below on the tone scale. That would work out to 2.5% of the global population, because Hubbard said 2.5% of the population is suppressive and therefore they need to be eliminated. So there is social engineering in Scientology. There is a call for a genocide. They don't have the capability to do it, but you can goddamn well bet if Miscavige had the ability to, take out a lot of people, he would do it. So this is Seorg's mission per Hubbard is to put in Scientology ethics not only on this planet but on this universe. So Australia, people on YouTube, if you want content, this is something that's very explosive and powerful that I like to promote. Another well-read piece on my blog while I'm at it is why you can't be a Christian and a Scientologist. And having grown up in Christianity and my minors in biblical studies, I've always wanted to debate Gordon Melton. I mean, any Scientology paid cult apologist, I will be glad to go on air and debate. I'll be glad to go down to Montclair. I'm glad to debate and show up online in person. If you want to, Massimo Trevenier, I'd be glad to debate with him why you can't be a Scientologist and a Christian. So, but going back to earlier, this thing I think we should really promote. If you really want to show what Scientology really is about, it is the contracts. It is destroying children, but it's also fundamentally there's a master race to it, and that cannot be understated. So that is a Scientology genocide, and it's right there. And when David Miscavige republished the basics, I was thinking he was going to take out that quote in Science of Survival about disposing of everyone quietly and without sorrow. He said that there was a dictator in Venezuela who noticed that all the beggars were also lepers. So by the simple expedients of drowning all the lepers, he thereby also eliminated the beggars. So it's breathtaking. So that's kind of, when you look at their genocide, that's another reason they are so strange, is they have a genocide. Oh, I don't want that. Wait a minute. I want to get back to my sharing a screen so I can finish this up because we're going long. And okay. There we go. So L. Ron Hubbard did create a master race, and we'll wind this up. I only have 2 more quick slides. So L. Ron Hubbard minimized the MEST universe. He minimized this lifetime. He did it by reincarnation. He did it by saying theta is superior to the mechanics of the MEST universe. So all these so-called axioms were self-serving. And then here's his quote, this second one I draw your attention to. This is something you can use in protest literature on your blogs. Hubbard writes, advanced courses in Scientology are the most valuable service on the planet. Life insurance, houses, cars, stocks, bonds, college savings, all are transitory and impermanent. There is nothing to compare with advanced courses. They are infinitely valuable and transcend time itself. Hubbard actually wrote that. So you can see his greed. The way to cover up his insatiable greed is to minimize you, to minimize this lifetime, and to say, oh, everything that you want, your life insurance, your home, your car, stocks, bonds, college savings for your kids, those are all transitory and impermanent. They apply just to this lifetime. They're nothing to compare with the advanced courses, which means the OT levels. They are infinitely valuable and transcend time itself. So Hubbard made this claim that, like, get rid of your car, your house, the kids are a problem, dump them in the Sea Org. We'll certainly use them and grind them to pieces. So the minimization of human life and money was Hubbard's covert way to commercialize and enrich himself and his corporations. That's the thing to get. The minimization of human life and money was Hubbard's covert way to commercialize and enrich himself and his corporations. Hubbard convinced Scientologists that the doctrine of exchange applied, as did the self-sacrifice of this lifetime. That's exactly what he did. There's a doctrine of exchange. You must give something to get my advanced courses. And your children are nothing. Their education's nothing. Your car, your home, your stocks, they're nothing. They're transitory and impermanent. You're an immortal spiritual being and you'll reincarnate, and you'll be better off next lifetime if you become OT this lifetime. So you can see the way in which Hubbard used. This is why Scientology is clearly a business. However, Hubbard was adept enough to use the language of metaphysics and transcendentalism and master race principles. That's why you needed a paramilitary organization to convince you to give up everything. So finally, on this last piece, from 1964 to 68, it's really a critical period. When you talk about Scientology, I tell people it's like geological layers of the earth, how the geological layers formed over time. You can often see that in sides of mountains. You can see how the geological layers formed over time. So when you discuss Scientology, it depends what time you're talking about. So 64 to 68, where Hubbard formalizes fair game, Guardian's Office, Sea Org. He's creating an intelligence organization and a paramilitary slave labor force internally. That's the cult within the cult, especially Guardian's Office, which would later become Office of Special Affairs. And he's creating a paramilitary slave force called Sea Org, where you're not allowed to have any human emotion or reaction. And he's strip mining the wealth, because Scientology is a systematic wealth extraction scheme disguised as a religion, and its tools are revenge and blackmail. So taken all together, Scientology is extraordinarily strange. And it's when people laugh at it, Hubbard says something pretty chilling that I want to share in closing. And this is one quote that I use quite often. I want to bring it back up. Okay, this is from the same thing. This is to keep in mind. You can laugh at Scientology, but when you realize their brutality in the design and the manipulation, Hubbard wrote this in 63. And this is something I always pay attention to. He says, quote, incredulity of our data and validity. Incredulity. He says, this is our finest asset and gives us more protection than any other single thing. If certain parties thought we were real, we would have infinitely more trouble. There's actual terror in the breast of a guilty person at the thought of OT, and without a public incredulity, we would never have gotten as far as we have. And now it's too late to be stopped. This protection was accidental, but it serves us very well indeed. Remember that the next time the ignorant scoff. That's from Eleanor Hubbard, Scientology Review, HCO Bulletin of 29 July 1963. I always bear that in mind. Let the ignorant scoff, because they will fuck you over and divide communities, create war. They have all these psychoterrorist techniques they're using. We're seeing them employed right now in abundance. So Scientology is strange, but not in a funny way. It's in a terrifying way. So while South Park parodied it, South Park failed to capture the psychoterrorist wealth extraction scheme, because you can only do so much with parody and satire. And that's why I put together the slideshow, because I'm building a case of what Scientology really is and why it appears so strange. Hubbard said that's fine. If people are incredulous and they laugh at us, we know what we're up to, and they're dismissing us as a cult. In part, tax exemption, and I respectfully have to disagree with people. Scientology did not overwhelm the IRS. The IRS, as I've said, took down organized crime, the five families, in the 1980s using RICO, and they tore apart the five families. Scientology would have been nothing for them to take out. The IRS, the FBI, U.S. government, they could have blown away Scientology. All the IRS wanted was you basically had this kind of slightly angry cult, and they wanted compliance. Pay your taxes, stop all your anti-tax activity, come into compliance with U.S. law, And Miscavige argued that the Rogues and Guardians office were gone and Hubbard was dead, and they're willing to comply with tax laws. It's nothing sinister about that. That's a different conversation. So, um, yeah, yeah, God, he should have hired Williams and Connolly. Yeah, he would have got Jerry Pfeffer. That would have been interesting. IRS didn't cave Fred. Well, I don't respectfully, I don't agree, and I'm going to do a show on my view of tax exemption. So anyway, that's it. Scientology is so strange because it was designed to be strange. Hubbard had a certain amount of incredulity he found was to his advantage. Because if you laugh and dismiss it as a space opera cult, it's easy to do that. But now what we're seeing on YouTube is how the actual human carnage and damage it causes. And that's what you want to focus on. And that's built into the doctrine, into the wealth extraction scheme, into their theology of dismissing this lifetime as being inconsequential, sacrificing this lifetime, sacrificing your children, money, home, college savings, burn it all to the ground so you can clear the planet. In fact, Sea Org members, they don't get any pension. They don't get anything for 30 years. They get kicked to the curb or fitness boarded if they get real sick. So it's pretty amazing. And yeah, we'll do tax sometime because I know I have a lot of information on that. Meet Emery was a former IRS functionary who retired, and then he became a consultant, and he didn't have any horsepower. He had retired from the agency, from the IRS, by the time they hired him. As like, how do we navigate the tax law to better get tax exemption? That's really. But anyway, we'll do that. So I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm looking for if anyone out there, while I have you, I want to embed my PowerPoints into WordPress, and I've tried different embedders and they're not working, but I like these nice slides I do for my YouTube videos. If you can email me, if you have a really good way to put PowerPoint into WordPress, I've tried 4 or 5 embedders and they're just not getting them to work. Yes, thank you, Patrick. I always forget. I'm afraid that. Please hit that like button. Please hit and like and subscribe. And so that's it. I will figure out a way. And if, like I said, if you have like an embedder that works for you on WordPress to put in PowerPoint, PPT into WordPress, I know there's a tool because I've seen it done. I got it done once, but then all my PDFs quit working. So these are just the practical things. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Any questions before we go? I want to thank people in Australia who stayed up for the show. Thank you to Poe for sending over a room raid. That always helps. And next time I'll do a show earlier, and then we'll go raid your Poe on the Go show. Clearwater Chad, thank you. Perth, just want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Thank you. And I think we might dedicate a show. If I can get this, if can't help the WordPress issue, I am an 85-year-old geocrim. Well, what are we going to do with the 85-year-old geocrims, the Jane Kembers of the world? I don't know what to tell you. Read it, drill it, do it, right? It's a Scientology term. Well, thank you so much for watching the show, and always appreciate it. If you have any topics you'd like me to cover, please email me. You can contact me through my blog, Scientology Money Project. So, yeah, if you want me to cover anything in my area of expertise, because I haven't, we're all experts in different areas. I enjoy having a whole bunch of different channels with people having different emphasis. I'm really enjoying the quality of content that we're getting with so many people on the internet discussing Scientology. Well, we might have fighting and division. We certainly have a wealth of content. I'll say that as a movement, there is a wealth of varied viewpoints. There's a wealth of content, more YouTube than ever. So that's one really good, even though people don't disagree. But look, I tell people that people who have the courage to fight Scientology publicly under their own name, they're going to be strong-willed and powerful. The second gens who had to survive those horrific childhoods, they're going to be strong-willed and powerful. So when you have a lot of powerful people, and certainly anti-Scientologists are, who think for themselves, who have boundaries and are willing to engage in debate, yeah, you're going to have that go on because there's a lot of strong-willed people who want to take down a horrific cult. So division, there's another way to look at it, as long as we're all fighting toward the same goal of tax exemption. We might not disagree, we might not get along, there might be some friendly fire, but that just happens, So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You try to negotiate and make peace when you can, talk to people, but it doesn't always work. No one gets out of this life clean. So, and that's about it. So, but do the best job you can. I appreciate the work people do. I really do. And so until next time, Jeffrey Augustine, Scientology Money Project. We're looking for the right photo. B-52s to you.